You've heard it before. The connected age. Life at the speed of the internet. It's a digital world. What you might not have heard is that we can keep it safe. Because at CrowdStrike, we stop breaches. So wherever you go, go with confidence. Anywhere. Welcome to Anywhere. CrowdStrike. We stop breaches.
Blue skies, green grass, and sunny California weather make for a perfect day for racing in the Fanatec GT World Challenge America powered by AWS. Welcome to CrowdStrike Racing's coverage of the first round of the season at CrowdStrike's home track here in Sonoma, California. Kyle Heyer alongside Adam Chug, Senior Enterprise Solutions Architect at AWS. Adam, welcome. Just about ready to go racing for the season opening round, a 90-minute race from Sonoma. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Kyle. Really excited about this.
Again, we're all remote this week. I am in Austin, Texas. Adam is at the racetrack enjoying a beautiful sunny day. Wish I could be there this time. I will not be there for today or tomorrow, but glad to be here in a remote fashion for the first round of the season as we get prepared for racing here this afternoon. We'll be again live with you tomorrow for the second round of GT World Challenge America powered by AWS, as well as GT America powered by, nope, not powered by AWS. GT World Challenges, though. We're about ready to roll here in another pace lap or so. But, of course, CrowdStrike Racing and AWS working together for a 360-degree relationship. AWS is the title presenter for the Global SRO Series Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. For 13 years, AWS has been the world's most comprehensive and broadly adopted cloud platform, offering over 175 fully featured cloud computing services. Last year, the firm entered into a new collaboration that saw AWS become the official cloud and machine learning provider for SRO America, as well as a series partner of Pirelli GT4 America and TC America. Adam, of course, you're a global solutions architect. We're going to talk a lot about data integrations and how they kind of incorporate into the broadcast here today. But there's a lot of cool things going on behind the scenes, not only on the racetrack and DXDT Racing and CrowdStrike Racing, but also making the coverage possible here today.
Yeah, definitely. It's really interesting in being able to use all of our AWS services to kind of make these broadcasts come out really seamlessly, as well as adding the really cool interactions for fans, be able to see things like race vision and being able to get a lot more interactions going on with the event.
We're going to talk about race vision a little bit later in the broadcast. There's a couple really cool data integrations around cornering speeds and how AWS captures and shares that data. We've got P1TS running in the background as well as a data analysis tool. We'll have a look at a little bit later in the racing as well. 90-minute event here, Adam. We've got three DXDT Racing, CrowdStrike, AWS, Mercedes-AMG GT3s in the field. All three wearing the red and silver and black, a couple color splashes, though, as well. And this time, instead of 2 cars this season, we are running 3. And, of course, a 90-minute race. We've got 2 driver lineups. So endurance racing here, I guess you could consider it endurance racing with a driver swap. Sort of a sprint race format, though. With 3 cars in the hunt, though, and 2 of them qualified very, very well in Pro-Am. Excited to get this underway. We'll have Kevin Boehm joining us here a little bit later, the 2020 TC America Rookie of the Year in the TCA category and the champion of last season, and just got a podium in the first TC America race of the season in his brand new number 9 TC Honda Civic Type R. So lots of fun things this afternoon. If you're joining us here on CrowdStrikeRacing.com/Sonoma, be sure to ask any questions for Adam or Kevin in the chat. We'll get them answered here promptly and quickly, and we're going to rack them up, stack them up to go racing for 90 minutes. the Fanatec decals above the windshield, denoting the new partnership for GT World Challenge America this season. Of course, CrowdStrike Racing had an esports series that is still ongoing, and the next round will happen on Thursday. But Fanatec, a sim racing hardware provider that has come on board, and of course ties in with the CrowdStrike Racing virtual events that we've been running for the last couple months. Doubled up. We've got just under, I should say, 20 cars going racing for 90 minutes here today. On the front row, it's two K-Pax Racing Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evos. And behind, there's a row of all DXGT Racing CrowdStrike AWS Mercedes-AMG GT3s. Time to go racing from Sonoma, the season opener for GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Green flag flies, and we're racing 3 wide already as one of the NSX GT3 Evos dives to the inside in turn number 1 and up the hill. Get yourself some racing room here, and already the two DXGT Racing CrowdStrike cars side by side up through turn number 1. One of those cars being driven by George Kurtz in the number 04, and the other, David Askew, in the number 63. They were door-to-door through turn number 1 here, Adam, but they've strung out, and now it's two Lamborghinis at the front battling for spots. Oh, yeah, trouble. Definitely. Car spun. That's George Kurtz. Gets looped around at the bottom of turn number 4. Got tagged in the right rear. Doesn't look like any damage, but off to an unfortunate start. But that, you know what that means, Adam, is that you get to spend the rest of the day driving forward and passing race cars, and that's got to be a lot of fun.
Oh, totally. Looking at these CrowdStrike cars, they're just beautiful on the track, and they've really done a great job so far. And earlier with George in his GT America race.
You see right here that the touch coming down the inside, just that corner funnels down so tight, and that curbing rises up so high. There's just not a lot of room there, but it doesn't look like any significant damage to the 04, and Kurt should be able to continue. Coming off of a win in GT America, the first race of the weekend earlier today, so George coming off of some success there, and excited to see him continue that success potentially tomorrow. One lap already in the books here at Sonoma. So, Adam, you're a global solutions architect for AWS, and we talked a little bit about the data integration that we're going to see later today. Tell me a little bit about the behind the scenes of how that functions and how AWS and SRO work together to bring that information to viewers at home.
Yeah, we, last year at SRO, we kind of entered the partnership right before COVID hit, and a big kind of ask was, hey, we collect all of this data today with these cars, and we want to be able to bring that to the fans and give them a much more integrated experience. So I worked with SRO as well as the timing providers, and we kind of figured out, hey, what do we have? What data are we collecting? And how can we get into the cloud? Did a lot of research, did a lot of working some early mornings between Europe and the West Coast, and we were able to collect data, things like speed, GPS location, throttle position, brake position, right? These pieces of data are being collected so we can take them and then give a fan experience that's really interesting to watch on the broadcast.
And one of those fans at home, Lindsay, asks, Adam, how long have you been with AWS?
I've actually been with AWS for almost 8 years now.
All right, so you've been around the block there and gotten a lot of experience for sure. You've been around racing a lot of that time as well. Any interest in racing yourself? Yes,
actually, I raced my own Nissan 350Z. Crossed up and down the Mid-Atlantic with National Autosport Association, NASA.
Nice. So a little bit of grassroots level racing, which is always really cool to see, kind of what feeds into series like this. So that's really cool. Here is that 04 car on pit lane, getting some new right side tires. Get that car back out on the racetrack. Now, you see that team servicing that car. CrowdStrike's motto for this season, we win as one. And everything is a team effort here in racing, Adam, as you know. And AWS, I'm sure, is the same way. Nothing gets done with an individual. It's all a team effort. And that team already hard at work getting George Kurtz back up and running here.
Yeah, exactly. Working with the team here at CrowdStrike as well as SRO has been really awesome. Everybody's been super helpful, and it's been great because we all have a shared common goal, which is just to make racing more interesting and more competitive, as well as being able to kind of give the fans a really good experience.
So what's your involvement in the AWS side of this SRO America stuff? What do you do on a day-to-day basis that sort of integrates with this racing?
On a day-to-day basis, I check a lot of emails.
Nice.
No, it's actually a lot of fun, right? So, and my normal workload, right? I work with our media and entertainment customers, kind of providing fan experiences for a multitude of different customers across the AWS spectrum. And I was able to kind of come in and help educate and show exactly just how quickly and easily these things can be built, and get them out the door. So, COVID hit, and we were able to get the really interesting, Assetto Corsa GT rivals going with the esports racing, and that was really cool. And then we were able to really quickly be able to get the race vision powered out, and really excited about that, and excited to see where we go next.
Yeah, so race vision involves a lot of data capture. You sort of mentioned GPS location data earlier. What are some of the challenges involved on the technical side of getting GPS data from a car that's doing 150 miles an hour?
Well, exactly that, right? When we talk about GPS data, I can give you a point in time, but by the time you give me that point, the car has already moved several hundred more feet. So you have to be able to take that data and stream it straight to the cloud, as well as get a really good real-time collaboration going on exactly what's coming out, where the cars are, and then being able to take and match those timing data, right? Because you're going to get something like a GPS location as well as the time at which you got that GPS location. Then you can math and calculate it and make sure everything lines up.
So a lot of math and calculating going on behind the scenes. How does this help the fans see what's going on? You mentioned race vision. We're going to see it a little bit later in the broadcast, but what kinds of information can you show, and what does it help the fans understand from a spectator's perspective at home?
Well, exactly. So the interesting thing about these GT cars is that they're all dramatically different, right? The Mercedes is a front engine, whereas the Porsche is, say, a rear engine. So you can see where certain cars will have certain advantages in certain areas. And race vision kind of helps brings that out in the broadcast. Just looking at the cars driving, you may not understand or appreciate it, but when you start to get some of the data and we can overlay it onto the screen, it really gives the fans a better interaction as to what's happening and what's going on. You can see where corner entry is really high for certain cars, or corner exit is really high for certain cars, and kind of where the strengths and weaknesses lie.
See, Ziad Gondor in the number 9 Lamborghini Huracan GT3 taking that car behind the wall with some rear end and right side damage. Also saw David Askew from DXCT Racing and CrowdStrike Racing hitting pit lane to receive some service, likely for the left front. So where the contact happened, kind of getting that car repaired and back rolling. There is the number 20 car, which is being driven by Fred Pordad in front of a handful of cars, Burton, Taylor Hagler, and Aaron Vogel in the background. That's another one of our CrowdStrike Racing AWS machines with the purple side. So Vogel trying to run these guys down. This is all for about 6th spot. Going back to the AWS integrations. What other things? I mean, Race Vision does some pretty cool stuff, but what's next? What's the next level for AWS integrations with racing? And do we know what's on the horizon for those kind of data integrations in the live streams?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I've got a ton of ideas. As an amateur racer myself, I kind of want to bring my knowledge how racing works as well with how the technology works. So, you probably see on the screen a lot of things around speeds and what kind of speeds we're running. I'd love to see more around, being able to say where the throttle position is or where the brake position is. Maybe even start to think about how we can maybe use machine learning or artificial intelligence to see if we can predict where a car might be, not on this lap, but maybe in 10 laps.
So lots of those integrations, and also, to my knowledge, there's a little bit of integrations as well here. Here's from pit lane. Hold on one sec.
Of whether a penalty or not was coming, I went over and tapped Ryan Dial and asked if he was anticipating that as well, and he shot back and said, "We already got it." I asked him what the strategy will be now, and he said, "We got to go really, really fast."
They got to go really, really fast is what they said from pit lane after making those pit stops. But going back to some of those data integrations, you mentioned, sort of predicting. Is that something like what we've seen in Formula One, where CrowdStrike, of course, partnering with Mercedes-AMG over there and Lewis Hamilton as well? So is that something that AWS has had a hand in or will have a hand in the future?
Yeah, exactly, right? The key when you have to start talking about machine learning and artificial intelligence is around data and data collection. So sometimes these projects, you have to really make sure that we're getting a lot of the data. So step one was really the beginning of last year and kind of creating those pipelines to be able to collect and gather all that data. Now that we have those pipelines in place, we're going to be able to start thinking about what can we do with that data? How can we show it, train a model? How can we manipulate it in some way that gives the fans a much cooler experience?
That's pretty neat for sure. There is the race leader right now out front, Caldarelli in the black Lamborghini. Behind is Corey Lewis, who has raced at IMSA before and now brings the Lamborghini effort with K-Pax Racing over to Fanatec GT World Challenge powered by AWS. So with an hour and 20 minutes to go, we're just getting into this, and I've gone back to the team aspect before. Again, with CrowdStrike's motto, we win as one. The team effort from behind the pit wall is just as important as it is behind the wheels of the car. What's AWS's team look like behind the scenes, and how much of a team effort is it to produce the graphics and the integrations that we see?
Oh, it's definitely a big team effort, right? You know, not any one person here at AWS kind of knows everything. That's the kind of power that we have with the deep roster of talent. So while I'm, somewhat of a generalist and kind of talk about big concepts, I have a partner named Dirk, who's actually been very helpful with me. He's a big video nerd, so he's been helping me making sure that these broadcasts look as good as they can. And then I have another partner named Liam, who kind of works with me on that artificial intelligence, who's really smart in that aspect too. So we all kind of work and fill off each other's skills and our strengths to be able to produce something that's fairly seamless and flawless on the outside, but it's definitely a lot of hard work on the inside.
And it goes beyond the broadcast, as I understand as well. I mean, this is as deep as what the SRO officials use behind the scenes as well. So I'm sure that there's more than just the visible side of this, but also the underlying infrastructure on how SRO race weekends are accomplished. I'm sure there's a lot there as well that AWS has a hand in.
Yeah, exactly, right? It goes a lot more than just the broadcast, just like you said. My goal was to help SRO run as a very efficient organization with limited resources as a global platform. SRO is not just in America. They do have races that are taking place all over the world, and we want to make sure that this can collaborate in a very seamless way, as well as being able to move data, pictures, video, things like that, and make sure that it works really, really well for the entire organization.
Well, there's that Race Vision powered by AWS on the right-hand side of your screen, pulling data from the cloud and GPS sensors on the race cars and pulling it down. How about 139.8 miles an hour? Top speed for Dynan, the number 96 BMW M6 GT3. He'll be turning that car over to Robbie Foley a little bit later today. Sala's behind him with 137.9 miles an hour and the same top speed as Ward behind him in a Mercedes, and two very different vehicle platforms racing together here in the GT3 categories of racing. So you've raced a 350, as you mentioned, in NASA, but as you start climbing up the ladder here, the vehicle differences, especially in GT3, sort of play a role a little bit. All the cars are very well balanced due to SRO and FAA regulations, but there are pretty different vehicles. And because of that, how much of it is a challenge to get information from those different cars electronically? I mean, is it just, help me understand how you gather the same information from two very, very different cars. Is there a lot of process that's involved with that?
Actually, not really. Once the data is being collected, it's fairly generic, right? We're gathering things like how deep the position is. They're using a lot of standardized equipment, so it helps on the other side as a data collection to be able to look and gather and grab. But what the thing is that while all the data is the same, when you start to look at the results, things are very different. Just like you out at the last Race Vision capture, these cars are all completely different, but they were all within tenths of a mile of each other. So it's really interesting to see how the dynamics play out.
And here, corner speeds at turn number 6, another Race Vision tidbit here. 83 miles an hour mid-corner for Ward, 78.9 for David Askew, second in that list. Both of those with the Mercedes-AMG GT3. Now, in the past, Adam, I've talked a lot about the differences in the cars. And again, they all end up being roughly the same. But where this Mercedes-AMG GT3 really excels is in the tight and twisty bits right here through turn 9. Look at this battle here for position. That is Russell Ward in that black Mercedes-AMG. And the strengths of this car are not really where you'd expect it to be. It sounds like a thunder cloud as it drives by, but really the advantages are the tight and twisties. It's a little bit counterintuitive to how the car looks and sounds, but it is really a capable race car, and it's right at home here at Sonoma.
Oh, it's amazing. And I can, right now I'm in the press booth, and I can hear every time it goes past me, I know exactly when one of the AMGs goes by. But yeah, it's quite impressive to see where it's run down. The aerodynamic balance on these cars is just absolutely amazing from Mercedes.
Now climbing up onto the front straightaways, the Lamborghini Huracans stretching their legs a little bit with the V10s under the hood. in the rear of the car, or the middle of the car. That's another difference, is the AMGs are that front engine rear wheel drive layout, that sort of classic sports car, the long nose, and the Lamborghini, the driver sits much closer to the front of the car with the engine behind, pushing the car along. Two very different ideologies on how to go fast, and both of them quite successful. The 15 minutes in there, in the purple car, of course, is Vogel in the number 19, up a couple spots from the start, and just went quickest in Sector 1 with a 34.374, quickest lap that Vogel has run so far. So improving as the race goes on. Updates on Askew and Kurtz running 12th and 13th overall right now. Right now, both of those cars look like they are, at least Kurtz is one lap down. Askew is a little ways behind the leader. So it's been another thing about this weekend is this is a home race for CrowdStrike, Adam, and I am very jealous of you right now. We'll hang tight. Pit lane interview.
Back for track ready. JC Sada has already gained 2 positions in race day. They feel like they gained really good data from qualifying. Guys, they are just relieved to be racing today.
And coming back to Sonoma, the last time I was here was back in August, Adam, and it was how Sonoma typically looks when most people have seen it. Of course, Sonoma has been raced by NASCAR and IndyCar in recent years that come here towards the summer and fall. But this time of the year, in the spring, boy, is Sonoma gorgeous. And I'm very jealous that I can't be there right now, Adam. I'm sure it's really pretty, and it's probably been a very nice weekend so far.
Oh, yeah, it's been absolutely beautiful. It's been really great to kind of get out of the house. You know, I'm in Virginia, and when I heard about this trip, you know, I jumped on the chance to come out and hang out. And immediately my girlfriend also said, well, I want to come. So she's also been enjoying her time and going to different wine tours and things like that while I'm here working and slaving away at the racetrack.
I'm sure you're absolutely miserable, right, Adam? couldn't be in a worse place than at a racetrack enjoying it. This is amazing. I mean, I'm joking, but Sonoma, when I visited last August, it was honestly one of those experiences I didn't expect to have such a big impact on me. It's such a cool place, great spectator facility as well, and my experience with checking out the CrowdStrike Racing paddock area and getting to know some of the drivers was really cool as well. So 15 minutes in, just a little bit past that now. And one of the things we'll talk about a little bit later is the driver swaps. Now, the other thing that these vehicles do is when the next driver gets in, the pro category driver, they're going to essentially flip a switch, hit a button. They're going to do something in that car, and then all of a sudden, all the names on the timing and scoring change. So there's another data integration. Is that handled on the SRO side, or is that also an AWS deal to deal with the driver swaps and the name changes?
No, that's actually done by the timing provider. But one thing that does happen behind the scenes is that we're collecting data for each of the drivers, right? So you can think of it as I have a file for George, I have a file for Colin. So you in the broadcast, you just see it as one car, but I'm collecting the data for individual drivers so we can compare them, their performance within the cars.
Absolutely. So that's an interesting point to hit on here, as you see that Ward machine go by the M6 of Dynan, climbing up the hill over the crested turn 4. Lots of elevation change here. One of the most wild racetracks in terms of elevation over the course of a lap in the country. So a couple hundred feet worth you're going up and down. Here's turn number 5. This is the carousel. And down the hill left-hander here, a little bit of banking to help the cars rotate here, and this is on the run-up to turn number 6, or is this actually considered turn 6 where we get that race vision powered by AWS data? I'll have to look at P1TS, the timing and scoring software I'm using behind the scenes here, and yes, it looks like the carousel in this configuration is considered corner number 6, so that is where our race vision data is coming from. A very, very fast downhill left-hander, over 80 miles an hour for a couple of those cars out there.
Yeah, it's quite amazing when you start to sit back and look, because on the broadcast, they don't look like they're going 80 miles an hour, but being able to show individuals that, yes, these cars are taking these turns at 80 or 90 miles an hour is quite an impressive feat.
It really is, and it's not something that you can, appreciate even trackside. It's something that you really need to get into a race car, and Adam, I'm sure if you've brought someone on a ride along before, if you've ever had someone out on the racetrack with you, that is a transcendental experience to go out on a racetrack and really feel what these Pirelli tires are capable of, or any slick racing tire for that matter. There's Aaron Vogel pulling over to driver's right and letting on by the Acura NSX GT3 of Taylor Hagler. Vogel seems a little bit off the pace here, and see if Vogel hits pit lane or if she'll stay out on the racetrack. Looks like will stay out. So maybe just not fighting the fight right now. It's still a long way to go. So planning ahead potentially and worrying about the race when the time comes.
Yeah, exactly. And, when it comes to racing, you have to realize that it's not won in the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or first turn, right? It's at the end. It's at the end is when it really matters. So you have to pick and choose and figure out when your high spots are and kind of attack when you can.
For sure. I'm keeping an eye on George Kurtz's lap times now. This is something that I think I could really pick up on P1TS. So I'm going to try to sort this out in the background and get a really good look at how George Kurtz has been making up for some of the time that he lost in the early moments of the race when he had that incident. But I think what is exciting about this race is that it's long enough. It's 90 minutes. You've got about 45 for each driver. So then Colin Brown's going to jump in that car, and we're going to really see what Brown can make up and see if he can pass some of the drivers in front of them. I feel like this is one of the strongest CrowdStrike Racing, DXCT Racing teams that we've had, even comparing to last year. It seems like the team is stronger. They've got more cars and just more presence out there on the racetrack, and certainly, Adam, the best-looking cars out on the racetrack.
Oh, 100%. All of the color choices this year have been phenomenal. Standing around in the paddock and just seeing how everybody's clicking, seeing the entire organization and how it's being operated, it's phenomenal. It really is kind of the benchmark of how you would want to have this be done.
Well, talking about CrowdStrike's "We Win as One" motto, we win as one, but that sum is many parts. And I think having more cars on the racetrack and having a stronger, larger, better focused team is really going to be an amazing year for them, especially for that 04. Kurtz, again, winning GT America race number 1 earlier this afternoon, gearing up to potentially do the same thing tomorrow. So Kurtz is really becoming very, very strong. There's Vogel heading down pit lane here, a little bit early for a driver swap or a pit stop that would be on sequence. So this is potentially trouble, unfortunately, for the 19 car, and maybe we'll get pit lane information update here in a couple minutes, Adam, but seems like this 19 has had some issues.
Yeah, you never really want to see it have to come in early, but we'll definitely see what's going on there and see what's going to happen with Aaron.
So into the pits. Whoop, I think that car might have stalled there. You saw the rear wheel sort of jump forward and the engine shut off. But battle for, it looks like this is for 6th spot. That's Fred Pordad for Wright Motorsports through turn number 7 and into the S's. And streaming on through, these cars get to lean on their downforce a little bit. The main difference between these two cars, other than how they look and how they're shaped, the Porsche's engine in this GT3R is actually located behind the rear axle, so basically in the trunk of this car, whereas the Lamborghini Huracan's motor is right behind the driver. So again, compared to the Mercedes AMG, where the motor's out front.
She had to pit
as we get a pit lane update here on Aaron.
Down on the straightaways to see if she could get herself tighter. Just a rough start for DXDT here today. Another unfortunate event. This one bought Aaron Vogel.
A couple issues to sort out there, but see if Aaron can get back out on the racetrack. There is the 04 car of George Kurtz. Now, going back to the lap times he was running earlier, he just ran a 142.6, which, looking at the times up the order, is the fastest driver on the racetrack up to about 4th place. So George Kurtz certainly has not lost any pace, but he did lose some track position and time. So I think Kurtz and Brown will be digging themselves out of a little bit of a hole here, Adam. But, sometimes fighting from the bottom is fun, and I think they're really going to embrace this challenge.
Yeah, 100%. If there's one thing that Colin's really good at, it's being able to, dig deep and pull it through. So I have full confidence in the team that they'll be able to pull through on this one.
And as I understand it, we do have now Kevin Bohm joining us here today. Hi, Kevin. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me in the booth.
Yeah, Kevin, welcome. And so we were just watching the tail end of your TC America race just prior to the beginning of this broadcast. Take us through that race. Got a little bit elbows out there at the end. And how was that weekend so far in that new TC Type R, TC car that you've got?
Right. It's definitely a mouthful, the new TC Honda Type R. But this is the first time that I got to race that car. And honestly, yesterday was the first time that I got to drive it at all in anger, and we've been trying to make little adjustments and tune it up to kind of feel the way I want to. And we made really good progress this weekend, and being able to come off with a podium finish is a real good thing to take home with us. And I'm pretty proud to be able to get the car working this quick.
So for those at home, of course, Kevin Bowma, senior engineer at Honda R&D, races the number 9 HPD Type R TC car. This is a change from your TCA car that you won the championship and Rookie of the Year in 2020 with. Take us through some of the differences between those two cars and how you've had to adjust to it so far this season.
Sure. I mean, the TCA Civic is based on the Honda Civic Si that you can buy at the Honda dealer, and the TC Type R is based on a street-going Honda Civic Type R. And there's a lot of similarities between the two cars, including a lot of the suspension bits that are upgraded on the car to kind of make the car capable of driving around the track at high speed. And but the Type R is kind of built more of a track car to start with. So believe it or not, it's actually kind of less modified than the TCA Civic was last year. So in some ways they're really similar, but then the kind of suspension design and some of those different components are just different enough that I've got to relearn the car and figure out what works on this car.
So some changes to adjust to for sure. Of course, we're watching the Fanatec GT World Challenge America powered by AWS, the first round of the season. Tell me about the differences and what TC means, and what are the differences between TC and GT3, which is what we're seeing right now.
Well, I mean, the touring cars are generally based on some 4-door and 2-door kind of almost family cars that you can kind of imagine seeing at a high school or different places like that. And kind of you think about these cars as maybe taking your family on a tour. But the GT cars are more of a supercar or a sports car, and kind of the halo car that you sort of aspire to drive whenever you have some success in life. And when you start looking at these race cars, these are kind of taking those supercars one step farther and kind of adding a bunch of carbon fiber and a bunch of wings and a bunch of really wide and sticky tires, and these cars will really just rip your face off around some turns.
Yeah, they're really, really quick. But, of course, this is not the only GT3 racing we're going to see. We're actually going to see a combination, and we just haven't seen it here on CrowdStrike Racing's coverage yet, of GT America, which is an all-new series that utilizes these GT3 cars as well as two other categories, GT4 as well as GT2. So what's really the main difference in terms of the format for GT World Challenge and GT America, which we'll see tomorrow?
The main difference is kind of the drivers that are eligible to race. The GT America series is kind of primarily for bronze-rated drivers, which are typically your gentleman drivers with a little bit less experience, and they're sort of learning the ropes. And then to get to the GT World Challenge, you're starting to see some of those drivers be paired with some pro drivers that kind of make a living driving these cars. And there's a few different classes in here where you have some pro combinations, and really it's sort of the driver experience that sets them apart, but the cars themselves aren't that different.
Great battle for position going on back here for sixth spot as we continue to watch them scrap for position around Sonoma Raceway. This track is just about 2.5 miles, 12 corners around here. Kevin, you were here last year in the TCA car, now in the TC car. What's the toughest part of this Sonoma Raceway? It's obviously a very gritty, highly elevated racetrack, but take me through Sonoma, and what are some of the trickiest parts for you as a race car driver?
Well, I think Sonoma is one of the trickiest tracks to drive because there's so many blind turns. So as you kind of crest some of these hills, you can't see over the other side until you get to the very top. So you have to kind of drive with a lot of kind of mental vision to be able to see around a corner you physically can't see.
Big slide out of the Lamborghini there at the exit of turn 4. And we were looking earlier at the Race Vision powered by AWS, the top speeds that we saw at this racetrack, about 140 for these GT3 cars, which is a little less than we saw at places like Road America and Circuit of the Americas, where I'm currently am in Austin here. So that sort of changes the dynamics of the racing a little bit when it's a little tighter and twistier. Tell me about that, and do you prefer tighter and twistier tracks over ones that have a little bit more straightaway?
Oh, I mean, typically a tight twist like this makes it really hard to pass because the kind of long straightaways followed by a long brake zone, or where you can really try to set up a move on a car in front of you, or even give you an opportunity to defend if you're the car ahead. But when the cat is just full turns like Sonoma, it's hard to position the car in a way to buy another car unless either they make a mistake or you just have better tire wear, or different scenarios like that. So it's one of the more difficult tracks to race, especially if you want to just say difficult track to pass.
And of course, learning a racetrack and sort of working on your own car can be a bit of a challenge. But you've had some help, not only this season but last as well, from Operation Motorsport. Now, Kevin, you and I have talked about this at length, but for those at home that don't know what Operation Motorsport is, help me understand what it is, how it works, and who's involved with helping you get your car on the racetrack.
Yeah, for me, Operation Motorsport is really an organization that's trying to insert kind of retired or injured military guys that really looking for something to do and something to be able to focus on. And the way that works specifically with me is we a couple of guys, for example, that joined me at the track this weekend, and really I've been trying to share some of the duties that need to be done to be competitive here at the track, and whether that's kind of pumping out fuel or fueling the car, managing tires, doing the kind of maintenance checks on the car, doing a bunch of different activities that kind of help me kind of look at the bigger picture and kind of try to improve the performance of the car, and let them focus on some of the finer details that make sure the car is reliable from session to session.
Of course, that sort of fosters that team and environment that Adam and I were talking about a little bit earlier, and we were mentioning that there is now a third car that is in the DXGT Racing Camp in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. From the team perspective, working with Operation Motorsport and just teammates in general, what's that been like, and is it a positive thing to have people around you to lean on, just from the driver perspective as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of dividing up responsibilities, and some of it's even trying to better document some of the processes and things that I do at the racetrack to kind of try to be competitive. So being able to kind of document it and turn it into kind of checklists that I can share with Operation Motorsport volunteers, and in the end, that kind of frees me up to maybe look at the video or look at data, or maybe even just kind of put my engineering hat on for a little bit longer during the weekend. So it really is a team aspect, and it would be so much harder without them here. I rely on them a lot, and after last year, it was sort of a learning experience. I didn't know exactly how much work I could kind of offload, and I didn't know exactly how to teach as well. So I used last year as a learning experience, and so far this event, I think we're doing a lot better job of kind of integrating them with more activities during the race weekend, and really diversifying all the things that they're capable of doing when they leave the race event.
Just under an hour to go here in the first round of the Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Round number 1 from Sonoma. For those that are watching at home, feel free to ask questions in the YouTube chat here on CrowdStrikeRacing.com/Sonoma, and we'll see if either Kevin or Adam have some fun answers for you while we get deeper into this race. So I mentioned to Adam earlier that this is a really beautiful time of year for Sonoma, with the green grass and the nice blue skies. We were here just last August when it was a little bit hotter out potentially, and the things were a little drier. Has the track changed in any way? Has it affected the surface at all, or is it pretty much the same as it was last August?
Well, I mean, probably the surface is a little slipperier this weekend, mostly because the temperatures are pretty low. I think we're only seeing kind of 60-degree temperatures today, and even though the sun's out, it's not really putting a lot of heat into the asphalt, which it makes it a little harder to get heat in the tires. So the first few laps when you're out on track, you're really struggling to keep the car under control, and then once you kind of slide it around a little while, you get some heat in the tires, and they really grip up. But honestly, I thought I would notice the green foliage a little bit more as I drove around the track, but I'm so busy trying to hit my marks and go fast that I'm surprised that I don't really kind of remember seeing it much on track.
Well, no one will blame you for not sightseeing out there in a race car on track. So I think it's just about when you get off the track and you get to enjoy a glass of wine at the end of the day or whatever happens in Sonoma when I'm not there. Again, I really wish I could be there, even at 60 degrees. It's not exactly a scorcher here in Austin either, so I wish I could be there. But so cars on track. We've got a pit stop window opening soon here, Kevin. Of course, this 90-minute Fanatec GT World Challenge America powered by AWS event has driver swaps with a majority of the field having a pro driver and an AM class driver, and they are going to swap. Typically, you'd put your higher rated driver in second, and that is what Kurtz and Askew and Vogel have done. So they're you can basically trade their car to someone else. Now, is that something that you've experienced, a driver swap scenario, or you haven't quite gotten to that point where you're swapping cars with drivers just yet?
I've definitely done that, and it's definitely a choreographed kind of process that you practice before the race. Really, the more that you can kind of define and really put out there, the better and more efficient you're going to be during the stop. I mean, there's a lot that goes in, because even if you imagine as the driver getting out of the car, it's simple. You just unbuckle and get out. But if you do that, then the kind of belts are really chaotic in the car, and maybe there's some drink tubes or this that aren't necessarily located where they're ideally located. So if you can kind of have a better plan going into the driver swap, you can actually slow down the driver exit a little bit, and it makes when the driver gets in, if he knows where everything is going to be, then you can actually get him in the car much faster and make an overall kind of quicker pit stop. I know in this series there's a minimum pit stop time, so there's a little bit less pressure to kind of do the driver change as fast as possible, but you still don't want to be the thing that's holding up as the driver.
For sure. In the background, we saw Aaron Vogel hounding one of the Aston Martins through turn number 9. That's the chicane there at the end of the S's. Vogel trying to make up for lost time after a pit stop earlier in the going. So is George Kurtz and David Askew after a run in turn 4 on the opening lap. But Kurtz continues to climb up the order, up to 11th now, and still running times that are fast enough to get him back inside the top 5. So, Kevin, when you have an issue this early in a race, fighting back, I was talking with Adam earlier, has to be sort of fun, but you got to be real focused in on the job at hand. And I'm sure you kind of get into your lizard brain moment where you're really focusing on what you're doing and driving through the field.
Yeah, I think the trick is to try not to let your emotions to kind of take over. It's easy when something happens on track to kind of get upset, and you don't want that to distract you. So the main thing that you should do is really focus down back to the fundamentals and just hit your marks. And essentially, you need to have the race come to you. If after something happens, you just want to minimize anything else that's going to happen that might slow you down. So just kind of hit your marks, and hopefully someone else has some issue that moves you up some spots, or maybe even there's a yellow flag that can kind of catch you up to the field. There's lots of different scenarios, but you can't control any of those things. So the main focus is just do what you can do to kind of control what you can and be your best from that moment on.
So 52 minutes left here. Adam, you were here for the opening couple moments of this race, and we were chatting a little bit about the AWS integrations. Behind the scenes, there's a lot of data analysis happening by the teams themselves. How much goes on behind the scenes on AWS side for providing data analysis tools to teams? Is that something that they sort of do on their own, or is AWS involved in that as well?
Right now, a lot of the teams will do that on their own. We are looking at different ways to integrate that with the teams and make it, more democratized, right? We want to be able to give the teams the abilities to, look at how we're doing balance of power and things like that to make sure that the competitive field stays competitive.
And it seems very competitive right now. We've seen lots of good battles happening on course. Adam, just going back to your racing experience at sort of the grassroots level, I was asking Kevin about the sort of multi-driver format. Have you done any sort of endurance race where you've had to do a driver swap, and what's your experience been, if so?
Yes, actually, I have as well. I do sprint races, but I have participated in running Champ Car. So that is a budget-friendly endurance format, which sometimes can cause hilarity. When some of the drivers are not as experienced to be able to do those driver swaps, and like Kevin says, you don't want to be the thing that slows down the pit stop. So it's always fun because seeing the different kind of levels, like you say, from grassroots up to professional, we're all at different skill levels, and being able to experience that is really unique and awesome.
And I guess for both of you, I think we'll start with Kevin here. Racing aspirations. How far would you like to take racing? All the way to the top, racing for CrowdStrike in Formula One, or are you pretty happy with what you've got and just kind of riding the wave here?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty confident that Formula One's off the table for me. But yeah, I would be glad if I ever got an opportunity that I would for sure go full throttle and see what happens. But in the end, I'm super happy to even be in the series and competing and trying to get the CrowdStrike Honda up front. In the end, kind of my goals are to be in some of these GT cars one day and maybe even compete at some of the world famous endurance races.
And for you, Adam, we mentioned that you've had some racing experience. What's the chance that maybe parlays into something here in SRO? Is that something that you have on the horizon at all?
Oh yeah, I'm just gonna fight Kevin here and steal his old TCA Civic, and I'm gonna go ahead and take that one. That'll be my next goal. On the parking lot, me and him.
I mean, that's one of the fun things, as we see pit stops beginning here, cars on pit lane. And at the front of that shot, I believe that is the silver-sided car. Yes, indeed it is, as they head onto pit road. Going back to the parking lot stuff, the TCA car that Kevin raced last year. Kevin, tell me a little bit more about that car, because you mentioned how it's basically a car that you'd see just out on the street, but that means that the racing is very different in terms of how it looks on track compared to what we're seeing here right now.
Right. I mean, the TCA car, one of the main purposes of that car is to really control all the modifications to as high of a detail level as you can, so that you can make the racing really close. And they do for not only all the Honda Civics, but all the different manufacturers that are out there, so that no matter whether you're driving a Honda or a Mini Cooper or a Subaru BRZ or whatever car it is, they try to make them all perform in a very similar way. And they still have different advantages and disadvantages, because some have more torque, or one might be front wheel drive.
So Adam, going back to, we were chatting a little bit earlier about this racing series here in Fanatec GT World Challenge and how Race Vision ties in. And we also briefly mentioned what is sort of on the horizon, but are there different challenges? We mentioned different manufacturers between the GT cars. Now, take me through, potentially what's on the horizon technologically from a cloud computing perspective for different series like TC America. Can the same things be applied from GT World Challenge to something like TC America to sort of go across more than just the GT series?
What was that question?
Well, we're just going back to the data integrations involved in the broadcasting and even behind the scenes with the GT series. Can those same things be applied to the touring car races as well, or is it something that those things have to be built per series?
No, they should be able to be applied to the touring car series, right? Again, it comes down to just data collection. One of the advantages of the GT cars is that, as Kevin mentioned, is they are big and expensive.
Well, as you guys
they have a
can
lot
see,
of acquisition and data acquisition. The TC cars, not so much, but we are able to get quite a bit of data out of them, be able to make it really interesting and provide a good balance for new drivers as well.
And Kevin, coming from an engineering background, data integration or data analysis really is sort of important in engineering any sort of object, whether it be a race car or a microwave. But looking at it from an engineering perspective, has that sort of aided your ability to get the car to handle how you want over the course of a race weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I think this weekend's a perfect example of that, because I didn't have any experience with this car before we arrived. So from the very first practice session, I was kind of coming off the track and downloading data off the car and really trying to have the data speak to me and help point me in a direction. So as a driver, I can feel kind of what the car is lacking, but I really have to rely on the data to give me some kind of direction of what might fix it. So every session we were on track this weekend, we were able to go a little bit faster and make the car a little bit better, basically because I was able to combine the data with what I felt in the car. So, of course, I keep looking at that, and I'll look at it through the whole season, because kind of as an engineer, I'm always pursuing the kind of perfect setup and the perfect combination for those maybe even weather conditions, because it changes a little bit at a time from many different variables. So it's never like you find some kind of perfect magic thing and then you can stick with it forever. You always have to look at the data to find out maybe something that worked in the past isn't working anymore, and it still might give you a hint at what might be better.
Adam, engineers and data people, are they the same people? Are they different people? Tell me about how that interaction happens. Oh, hold on one second. An entire wheel coming off of one of the Acuras down in turn number 6. That car is now stopped. Hold that thought, guys, as we've got a car disabled right in the middle of a pit window. And that's going to sort of throw things off just a little bit. And trying to see, that was, which car was that? The Acuras. I believe that was that. It's not Taylor Hagler. Who is that? At my list, timing and scoring. This is a great opportunity to go have a look at P1TS to see if I can discover where that car is. Of course, data tool that I believe also runs the AWS system. And I don't actually have a car stopped on screen just yet, so still not sure what car that is. But while we just figure out who that is, we've still got green flags happening here. Kevin, now we're going to throw Colin Brown in the car, as well as Ryan DL, and that sort of changes the face of this race a little bit as well. When you make that driver swap, you put a driver in that drives a little differently, maybe more aggressive in certain places. How do you think that's going to look towards the end of this race?
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to the driver pairing. Some drivers kind of like the car exactly the same, and be able to, like Colin will be able to jump in and really push the car in, and he'll be happy with it for the rest of the race. But because there's two drivers, sometimes you have to compromise the setup that says what the car does between one driver and another. And as an engineer, you really have to find that balance, because if one driver is really unhappy with the car, then the overall kind of speed that you run over the course of a race may not be as good as if you kind of change the car a little bit to make both drivers maybe not perfectly happy, but kind of okay with the car.
And so going back to Adam, I was sort of joking about engineers versus data people, if they're the same, what that looks like behind the scenes at AWS. Take me through some of those team interactions again. CrowdStrike's model, we win as one, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody always agrees on how things should be accomplished. And you've talked about the team aspect. Take me through how the behind the scenes how the team works together to kind of accomplish tasks that would seem very, very difficult to achieve.
Oh, 100%, right? And sometimes there's a combination of engineers that want to do more than you can do, as well as sometimes, like me, you have to distill it down to what we call an MVP, a minimum viable product. So there's always the push and pull, the tug of war, if you will, on how many features and things that can we do versus how much can we get done in a certain time window. So they're back and forth between data engineers that they want more and more and more data to be able to make more and more graphics and combinations, as well as someone like myself who's also kind of looking at the project holistically, saying, okay, well, what can we get, when can we get it, and how can we get it out as quickly as possible to make a big impact. So that's always a big challenge we have to deal with, not just for this project, but really for all technology projects at AWS. It's really about what can we do and how can we make a meaningful impact as quickly as possible, and then start to iterate on that. And that's a lot of how the Amazon philosophy is, as we want to be able to get a product out there. We want to be able to see how it does. We want to be able to get customer feedback. So hearing things from like yourself or the folks at SRO, or even my own family members who have watched the streams and asked me, well, why can't you do this next? And things like that. That is what helps us kind of build and create our product roadmap. Okay, what are we going to prioritize for next year or next season or even next race?
It just sounds like there's a lot of processes that happen at AWS to make things happen. And Kevin, going back to teams and processes, to be successful, there has to be a reproducible sequence of events that leads you to success. And there's a little bit of luck involved in racing, as there always is, but there's also a lot of team effort that goes in behind the scenes. What's that process look like for you and your team in terms of your scheduling, how things get achieved and solved throughout the race weekend? How much of that goes into your success on the track?
Well, I'll always take some free luck. Good luck is never turned down, but I've always kind of operated under a philosophy that we have some control to be able to kind of give ourselves some good luck. So again, if you really focus on the things that you can control, which is kind of checking your car for things that have failed in the past. Whenever you have a failure, if you document how much time was on the part, or maybe what was happening whenever it failed, then you can sort of start to put a process on when you need to change parts or what you need to check to catch it before it fails during a race. And in turn, you're sort of making your own good luck by not allowing a part to fail when it's really important. You want to catch it before it fails during a race. You want to catch it either after a practice, before it really fails, before it's a full failure. And really, it's trying to document your experience and be able to turn that into, just in my sense, it's kind of especially with Operation Motorsport, they're really kind of amazed at how many checklists that I have, and it's all based on experience, things that have happened in the past, and I just don't want them to happen again. And in turn, I'm trying to make my own luck by not having those things happen on track.
It's really interesting to sort of do a checklist like a fighter pilot. That's a really interesting way of looking at it, which is why I love talking to you guys to hear how things kind of go down behind the scenes to make that success possible. Here's a battle for position. That is the 63 car of now being driven by...
Well, Compass Racing came into
one moment.
the pit,
Here's the pit lane interview.
I'm sure it was very tough for Rodrigo to watch the left rear tire of that. How do you come back from that moment?
Well, you know, the Compass guys are a great team. We had a great season together back in 2018. Mistakes happen. I don't know if it was a mechanical issue or just a mistake, but I know we're going to come back even stronger. We showed good pace. It's a good car. I mean, I'm a little bit heartbroken, of course. It's never easy when these things happen, but that's racing. All we can do is each of us does our part, and I know that we'll come back stronger, so it's all right.
And guys, just a little bit aside on the emotional side, Rodrigo actually walked away from pit lane for about three to 4 minutes before returning. You know it's hitting him pretty hard.
So just going back now, we've got a full course yellow on the racetrack, and Adam, we're gonna get to re-rack them and restack them, but and bunch the field back up. There's a handful of drivers I think that are in tricky situations here, but with the Lamborghini Pace SUV out on track, the safety car, we're going to get to do a restart here. So this is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to get to do again what we did about 45 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's always either you love or you hate the full course of cautions, because if you're in front, everybody will catch up to you, and if you're in the back, you get a good chance to maybe take over or overtake somebody that you may not have had. So it's always a good time to see a restart happen.
And there's a look at the tire coming off of the 77. And, of course, that car is now stuck on driver's left, which is the cause for the full course yellow. Kevin, full course yellows, as Adam was saying, kind of bunch the field back up. As a driver, if you're in a position where you can make up some ground on the drivers you were fighting, this is a great thing. You get to bunch right back up and go again. But there are other drivers that had leads established that now have to look out the rearview mirror on the restart. As a driver, do you like or dislike full course yellows? And does it? I bet it probably depends a lot on the scenario.
I mean, it really depends, and to some extent, it depends on what your car feels like at that moment. I know a perfect example was my race earlier today. I had a pretty comfortable gap running in second. Third place was pretty far behind, and I was pretty confident that I was going to be able to easily finish second, but a yellow flag came out, which not only closed the gap to the leader, which I was not really going to be able to challenge for, but also allowed third place and farther back to catch up. And once the race restarted, I was able to capitalize on the yellow flag and grab the lead, but also having the other cars so close behind, eventually I was shuffled all the way back to third, where I finished for the race. So in the end, without the yellow, I could have finished second, but also I could have finished first. So with the yellow, so it's sort of it depends on the scenario and really how good your car is at the end of the race.
So safety car is out with about 36 minutes remaining in the first round of the 2021 Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Adam, I was chatting with some of the folks that behind the scenes that made this remote live stream possible. Again, for those that just popped in, I am remote in Austin, Texas this weekend at Circuit of the Americas for a different event. Couldn't make it out to Sonoma. Running this stream remotely from 1,000 miles away using AWS to sort of help route things back to me and then back out to the world. So Adam, it's really cool that we can use AWS in a racing series powered by AWS. There's a lot of integrations beyond just the data. Also, this exact stream is possible because of those integrations. So thanks for making it possible.
Well, you're very welcome. It's quite an achievement. It's one of those things that, these days in 2021, it's, you talk to me for a couple hours and a couple clicks later and we can make it happen. But this kind of coverage, this kind of the ability to do this globally, 5 years ago, 10 years ago was completely unheard of. So with the advancements and kind of, the pace of technology that AWS improves things, it's really interesting to see just how we can, go from powering something as big and powerful as Netflix to being able to help produce this, these series and produce it all over the world. Myself included, I worked with the folks at SRO that we would have a race in, Western California, and then I was stationed in Northern Virginia on the East Coast, and some of the broadcast people I was working with were in London and UK.
Especially here in Sonoma, and one person very interested in that is Andrea. And how anxious are you for Jordan as we get back up to racing here soon?
Well, I think Jordan is anxious. I'm quite okay. I'm quite relaxed here, but it's very difficult because the temperature is not so high, even though we have a beautiful sunshine. But it's very easy to have a lot of pickup, and with the cold tires, it's going to be quite tricky the first 2-3 laps.
You've seen this track. Were you able to relay any information to Jordan during the driver change?
Yeah. I shouted him a couple of things about track beat dirt in turn 3 and turn 4, like this morning. But I told him just take care of the rear tires because they're going to drop quite quickly.
Thank you.
And going back to, Adam, your point about sort of the globalness of this broadcast, I mean, we're basically taking a live stream from AWS and rebroadcasting it out to YouTube. But this broadcast from the SRO side is going all over the world, all up on YouTube. And, of course, it'll be tied in with CBS on Sunday. There's just so much happening behind the scenes to make this accessible. And that's what I love. And a big props to SRO for making this racing accessible to view. Because as a racing fan, and I'm sure you guys feel the same way, having the ability to watch racing, it doesn't matter what level it is, but just being able to get on YouTube or get on any platform and watch it and feel engaged in it is a really powerful thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's hard as fans that they want to watch this kind of racing. There's not a lot of outlets for it. So I've always been really appreciative to be able to be part of the series because, one of the things that I like working at AWS is that I like to work for customers that I am a customer of. So I know that if I can make this better, I'm making it better for me because I want to watch this when I'm at home.
Yeah, and again, I'm a diehard race fan of anything with wheels and a motor, and it's fascinating to me that we've accomplished something pretty great here to have this be freely accessible and also have this sort of backdoor access to guys like yourself, Adam, and Kevin, yourself, racing drivers sharing a common interest and having CrowdStrike have us here today to talk about the behind-the-scenes stuff. That's really neat access that is really unparalleled. I don't know of any other series doing something like this, and I think it's really, really cool. So big thanks to CrowdStrike and AWS for making all of this possible. Safety car still out. We're going to have under a half an hour of racing remaining, Kevin. From a driver's perspective, you're going to have 30 minutes. Now this 90-minute race is essentially a 30-minute sprint. How does that change your attitude for the last little bit here?
Well, I mean, you're really trying to size up the competitors that you're around, and you're trying to understand the differences between all the different manufacturers, and you're really coming up with a game plan to try to either pass or try not to be passed. And especially with this little bit of time left, you don't have so much worry about tire life. You can be a little bit more aggressive with how fast you're going around the turns and not really worry about the tires overheating and starting to lose their grip. So I think you're going to see a lot of aggressive racing once it goes back green.
And if I recall, a couple months ago when we were here in August, we also had a fairly late race yellow flag that sort of created a bit of a stack up for the restart, which is always a little bit of fun. But with 30 minutes on the clock, we're going to give a couple drivers an opportunity to make up some ground. One of those, George Kurtz, who we saw get looped around on the opening lap. Adam, this is really his chance to drive back up into the top 5. Now, as I understand it, based off the timing and scoring, we have 3 drivers on the lead lap because of where they were when the caution flag came out. So from Jan Halen on back, everyone is a lap down, and we'll be right back.
Officially made his debut in the Fanatec GT World Challenge powered by AWS. And Mike, when you look back at your effort, what did you learn here today?
First and foremost, I learned just to stay consistent, try not to make any mistakes. It's my first race in GT3, also my first race as a pro here. So the goal was just to go out there, learn as much as possible, and have realistic expectations for this first weekend.
As you approach race 2, is there anything you'll do differently?
Say that again, sorry.
When you approach race 2, is there anything you'll do differently?
As we go into race 2, obviously it's going to be different with Robbie taking the start. I think I'll probably have to deal with some more traffic because, the order will be slightly split up with the pro starting and pro-am. But my goal is just to have a clean race, do the best job that I can, and try to bring home the car in the best position possible. Thank you.
So going back to George Kurtz, his climb, it was upward after that spin he had on the opening lap, but now it's Colin Brown behind the wheel here, Adam. So I'm excited to see Colin get up on the wheel and try to grab some of these positions, and teammate Ryan DL climb behind the wheel of the 63 after David Askew got out. So we're going to have 2 of the DXCT Racing CrowdStrike AWS Mercedes AMGs moving forward pretty quickly here, and I think I'm really excited to watch them drive up the inside here on the restart.
Oh, yeah, myself as well. Colin is an absolute maniac. Fun fact, he's completely fueled by French fries.
I mean, aren't we all? Aren't we all fueled by French fries? That's a power food. Kevin, what's your power food for getting behind the wheel? What's your pre-race meal if you have one?
It's French fries, or yeah, it's basically I'm a sucker for French fries too. So
That's you guys are real creative with the the pre-race snack. I can't blame you. That's a good choice. I'm a little bit jealous, to be totally honest with you. So as we gear up for the restart here, under 30 minutes remaining. At the top of the board is Jordan Pepper in the Lamborghini Huracan GT3. Then it's Venturini, Foley, Halen, Dickerson, DL, Ozarov, Kurtz, Cooper, and Grunwald, the rest of the top 10. Then Stavely, Ellis, McMurray, and Gondor rounding out the rest of the field. The 19 car, driven by Cooper, of course, in 9th overall here. But if we look at the order, things are a little different here, Kevin. We've got 3 drivers up front that are all in the Pro category, but Pro-Am, everyone's on the lead lap in that category. So Halen is actually the leader of the class that DL, Kurtz, and Cooper are all running in.
Right. So the different drivers definitely kind of attack the different sessions quite a bit differently.
All right, coming back to the restart here as the pace car peels off out front. The Lamborghini Huracan GT3 as we get the green flag with 28 minutes and 14 seconds left on the clock. The run up the hill. The front 3 all line astern. In the background, you see some of those CrowdStrike Racing AWS Mercedes. The red and silver and purple. Around the outside goes Cooper trying to grab a spot on the 04 of Colin Brown. That door gets shut, and now they're side by side for a moment, but pass can't get completed. Now up through the twisty bits at the top of turn 4 in the hill. And Giovanni Venturini in that K-Pax Racing Lamborghini right in front of that battle, and right behind Ryan DL there, Adam. And DL has got a mirror full of that green Lamborghini.
The Lamborghinis are pretty wide, and I love them when they're in Skittles colors, so you can always see her in your mirrors.
They're certainly brightly colored. It's hard to miss them out there on the racetrack. There is that M6 GT3, and side by side here for position on the run down to turn number 7 on the outside. What a move by the 63. That was unbelievable there by DL to hold that spot and actually grab one on the run down to turn 7. That was unbelievable, Kevin. Around the outside, shutting the door on that number 93. Well done there.
Yeah, that's an aggressive drive that I was expecting with this little bit of time left in the numbers. And really, it takes a lot of respect between both drivers to be able to pull that off. You kind of habitate in the same area of the track without touching.
That was a pretty phenomenal move there by Askew. Now the run down to turn number 11, and on the brakes hard again. That is Colin Brown behind the wheel of the 04. closing on, I believe that it's Foley in the M6, who was in a different category, so this would not be for position. But Brown and Cooper, nose to tail, are. And going back to the teams battling amongst themselves, Adam, this goes back to something we talked about earlier, where the team wins as one, but you got to be careful that you also don't have a little bit of bumper cars, as we saw a little bit earlier today. So there's a delicate balance of aggression and preserving the team, and I think that's something that these drivers are learning.
Yeah, exactly, right? Race hauler only has so many starts.
Yes. So with 25 minutes to go, you'll see that I think Colin Brown is being held up here a little bit by the pro driver of Robbie Foley. And I think we're going to see an opportunity here for Brown to get on by. Onto the run onto the straightaway where that Mercedes-AMG GT3 is going to tuck into the line behind the BMW. Looks out to driver's right. Can't quite get up alongside, but is growing the gap back to teammate Cooper. So, Kevin, as we watch this battle, can you feel the frustration in Colin Brown right now as he follows this BMW? Is this too early in the race maybe to be frustrated about this, or with 25 minutes to go, are you willing to make a move down the inside and try to get this pass done?
As a driver, any car that's right in front of you is your enemy. So, I mean, you definitely want to get by as fast as you can. And these GT3 cars rely on a lot of aero to kind of maintain the grip on the car. So when you're following another car, you lose quite a bit of that. So it's sort of a compounding problem that makes it even harder to get by the closer you get.
So getting by some other traffic there with just under 25 minutes to go. And you'll also see, Adam, we mentioned the globalness of the SRO stream before, but have a look at the flags on the left-hand side. Well, one of them just disappeared as we were looking at specifically just the Pro-Am category, but also the drivers this season. Our grid is a little bit expanded from last year, and Adam, it's exciting to see so many drivers from so many different backgrounds here this afternoon.
Yeah, exactly, right. As a community, we're all definitely a little more connected. There's a lot more lines blurring across a global platform, and I think it's really cool to see the SRO kind of adopting and taking on all these drivers and kind of having this really interesting mix of personalities, drivers, driver types, driver cars. It's a great time to be around.
There's Jan Halen right now leading that Pro-Am category in the number 20 Porsche 911 GT3R. Kevin, we also talked about with Adam a little earlier the differences in this GT3R versus the AMG GT3, and one of those differences is the fact that the rear engine's hanging over that rear axle, whereas in the Mercedes it's over the front axle. So that's got to be a pretty different driving experience behind the wheel of those cars.
It is for sure. It affects not only the way you have to drive the car, but it affects how the tires wear and how they heat up. And it's a real tricky thing to kind of be able to feel that as a driver and try to use some of those nuances to your advantage without letting them become something that slows you down.
With where we are right now, but
And also, Adam, going back to data analysis, we talked about how the teams sort of do their own in regards to the cars. But as a guy that's interested in data, I'm sure there's a lot of interest in learning where cars are better, and that's why Race Vision that we had a little earlier is so interesting to look at to compare corner speeds between different platforms. And is it something that could be used as look at that? Speak of the devil, there's Race Vision powered by AWS. Top speeds: the BMW 138.5. The Ferrari 137.9, Dickerson in an Acura 137.9. So this is the kind of stuff I love, Adam, is being able to compare data across different cars and see where the strengths and weaknesses are. And it's clear here that all the cars are pretty well matched.
Yeah, exactly. When you look at that list, right, you have a BMW that's a front-engine rear-wheel drive. You have a Ferrari that's a mid-engine rear-wheel drive. Then you have these AMG Mercedes that, while they are front-engine, that front engine is pretty far back. It's almost like a mid-front engine, similar to a Honda S2000. So, again, all of these cars are dramatically different. But when you look at these numbers, they're all very, very similar and very equally matched, which is what gives us the really good close racing, which is what makes it interesting to watch, which is what we really want. It's all about the fan experience.
Yeah, and talking about the fan experience, Kevin, as a driver, do you ever go back and watch any of the broadcasts over? Whoop, there's some bodywork flying, I think. I just saw some pieces of something as we got a battle. So hold that thought here, Kevin, as we got a battle for position between teammates once more. This time it's Brown and Cooper once again. And Brown heads down to turn number 11, and I see some bodywork missing off that left front. Was there a touch potentially? Off of, yeah, right there with the M6. And look at Cooper going the long way around to try to avoid that. But it looked like there was a bit of a stack up potentially, Kevin, and that's what caused that little brush up there.
Looked like that the car that was all the way out in front maybe was going a lot slower than everybody realized that was behind. And one thing about all these GT cars is they sit really low to the ground. So especially if you're following a car really close, sometimes you can't see kind of through the car and you can't see around it because they're so wide with the big wings. So they might not even have known that there was another car there at that moment. So it's really hard to avoid contact when it's like that.
Yeah, that damage doesn't look too severe. I know that earlier, and I believe it was in qualifying, Aaron Vogel had a similar amount of contact in a similar location on the car, and replaced that bumper, and it's all good and fine and dandy. But Kevin, going back to what I was mentioning earlier, do you ever go back, and what's your debrief process look like for a race weekend? Do you go back and watch the broadcast, and is any of that AWS Race Vision data intriguing to you potentially as you go back through and watch races from previous weekends?
Yeah, I mean, for me, more data the better. And a lot of times, my kind of vision during a race is somewhat limited to obviously what I can see. So I'll watch the race to see what else was going on and see if there's something that I can learn from it. And I also have video and data that's kind of choreographed and synchronized in the race car, and I'll also review that. And again, that's really to try to learn from it as we go to maybe the next event or so on and so forth. And really, it's that search to try to always be improving.
And Adam, I'm sure that at AWS there's some debrief processes as well to sort of learn from any project that you do, and then that might affect how you plan the next one.
Yeah, exactly, right? We will often look and see exactly, what went wrong, what went right. Same kind of process. We want to be able to look and figure out where we can improve, figure out where there mistakes will be made, and then, to make it a bigger product. One of the interesting things, we talk about these cars and the data is that if I get the data from a car and it's a little too slow to the broadcast, then it makes a poor fan experience because then it doesn't make sense. We're not actually looking at the correct turn or the correct speed, or maybe the speed seems really high for where the turn should be because there was a mistake or there was a hiccup in how the data got through. So we'll always review and try to improve and figure out how to reduce latencies, how to make sure that we're capturing everything in the best way possible, and then prepare for that for the next event.
Absolutely. And there's a look up the inside. 19 on 04. Pass for position. Cooper goes through Colin Brown. Potentially that damage just hurting the 04 just a touch. The 19 will go on through. And, we're talking a lot today about data integrations and how they work, but really CrowdStrike's role is how to protect that data and all that information. Of course, CrowdStrike, their motto this year is we win as one, but as we see another pass for position, swapping back and forth, is there some smoke from the left front tire? Is there a bit of a tire rub, guys, potentially on that 04?
I mean, that's the one thing about when you have some body damage, especially as fast as these cars go, they can kind of catch air and start pushing those body panels into the tire. And the thing you have to kind of be concerned about as a driver is you don't want that bodywork to cut the tire and give you a flat. Fortunately, these teams have a lot of data, and they can actually be the crew in pit lane can be looking at that to watch it for them.
In racing, he's coming off of his win in GTA and now witnessing this. How difficult is that to see?
It's pretty tough. I mean, obviously, you got to take the good with the bad, and it's unfortunate. We had some contact, and we'll have to go look at the videotape. But I know we had good pace all day, and we're at least P4, and we'll see if we can mitigate damage at this point.
Have you been able to talk to David Askew after the incident in the first half of the race?
Yeah, he came by and just apologized, and we'll get it all sorted out. I mean, it's racing; it happens. It's obviously it's unfortunate, but we'll regroup and hopefully we'll be good to go for tomorrow.
Thank you, George.
Thank you.
So, going back to CrowdStrike, of course, we've seen that the team have a little bit of contact today, but, get elbows out and still, look at these guys still going at it. They're having a lot of fun, I'm sure. And Kevin, behind the wheel, to some extent, Rubbin's racing. And when you're in the wheel, or behind the wheel, I should say, how much of this is just tunnel vision and you're just focused on beating your competitors, and how much of this is team racing and pushing yourselves and your competitors and your team to be the best it can be?
Well, I mean, I think I have a pretty unique perspective, because as a driver, sometimes it's win at all costs. But since I do a lot of the work on the car, I know what goes into fixing something when you kind of make contact with another car. So I try to avoid it at all costs, and especially when we have two team cars like this, I think both these guys want to stay friends. So there's some mutual respect there, but there's also you want to kind of prove that you're one of the best, and both of these guys are right now. So yeah, it's sort of a fine line that you have to walk.
And Adam, as we were kind of getting into here, CrowdStrike's mission, and they keep surprising me with these AWS race visions, man. I love these things. There's corner speeds at turn 11. Now, this is the slowest corner on the racetrack. How about 35 miles an hour for Colin Brown? And teammate DL, 34.7. So looking at a different corner here, and I'm sure that there's data for every corner on this racetrack, so just another lovely race vision integration. But CrowdStrike, again, as I mentioned, is all about protecting all this data and basically all of SRO's data, whether it's timing data or even all the COVID regulation software that they've got kind of going around to make sure everyone's safe at the track. But the same mantra that they use at CrowdStrike offices to detect and neutralize threats is the same mantra that they use out there on the racetrack, where your adversaries are nothing more than friendly competition on the racetrack. But in the cybersecurity world, you got to defeat those threats. And today, defeating their competitors is really the main goal here. But under 15 minutes to go. And Adam, I think we've seen a pretty entertaining race so far. Your thoughts on the race this afternoon and what we might see for tomorrow?
Yeah, no, it's been amazing to watch, right? I mean, the new GT America class race, that was amazing this morning. Seeing Kevin, crush it out there. The new Civic was also really good. I think it's really just nice. It's the kickoff of the season. We've all been itching. There's a lot of teams out there that have refreshed and gotten new cars. So it's really, really great to see the big fields and kind of how everybody's kind of progressing through so far the day. I'm really excited for tomorrow and see what that brings.
And Kevin, of course, you've had one of your TC races this morning. We have more TC coming up this weekend, and your thoughts on that, and maybe moving on to the next round and what you're expecting out there.
Yeah, I mean, I learned a lot in today's race, and that was basically the first time that I got to drive a solid 40 minutes at once. So kind of taking that data and what the car felt like and trying to come up with how I can make it even better for tomorrow's race, that's going to be kind of priority number one. And in the end, I want to make sure I can be on the podium again tomorrow, and hopefully we can be a little bit higher. That's kind of my goal. And in the end, we're also going to go through the car and go through some of those checklists and make sure we don't have anything that's kind of keep us from achieving those goals.
Absolutely. 13 minutes to go. There's Jan Halen in the number 20. Right behind is DL in the number 63. Again, that is for position, and Jan Halen is the leader in the Pro-Am category. There is Ryan DL, fourth overall, second in class in Pro-Am. And within the last 15 minutes here or so, Adam, this is when they start to see the carrot dangling out the nose of this thing. They're chasing after it. And now it's all about managing your pace and seeing if you can run down this class leader.
Worst time to make a mistake. We talked about how the races are not won in the first lap, but they definitely can be lost in the last lap. So the big thing is making sure that you drive clean, you don't make mistakes, you don't have errors, and bring it home.
That's the goal. There's Dakota Dickerson for Racers Edge Motorsports in that number 93, running in fifth spot in overall right now. Currently third in Pro-Am behind DL. Colin Brown is about 11 seconds back from Dickerson, but there's still a chance here. It's about a second a lap to catch back up, and we've seen Colin Brown do some pretty amazing things, Kevin, so I wouldn't count anything out just yet.
I think he'll need to pick up the pace just a little bit for that to work out, but he's definitely going to be giving it his all, and you never, even if the math doesn't work out right this minute, there's always anything can happen. If there's a a short yellow that happens, or if maybe even the NSX makes a mistake or something like that, there's always a chance. So you always want to keep your head down and keep hitting the marks and minimize mistakes, like Adam said, and really that's how you can achieve that podium when you're struggling.
And back at it again, Cooper and Brown having an immense scrap for position. And Adam, I'm sure they're learning a lot right now just from each other, because the racecraft we've seen from these two today is quite aggressive, but they're learning from each other, and I'm sure they're going to have a debrief later today and talk about what these drivers did well or didn't do well. And this is just making the team stronger, is racing amongst yourselves, racing internally. It's almost like really they're just out there kind of dueling and learning from each other to apply this maybe to tomorrow's race.
Oh, exactly. I know that some of my personally my most fun times were at race events where I was doing this with my best friends, and we're all competitive at the end of the day. And once we get out, we jump out and we cheer and we grab each other and say, "Oh, that was so cool!" and "You did this turn great," and things like that. So it's always a fun experience when you're out there with your buddy mixing it up and you're having that fun battle.
Right, and again, in the position that these guys are in, it's not likely, it's not impossible, but not likely that they're going to win this race. So all you can do, Kevin, is salvage from this day. And how can you salvage it? Well, you learn and you take notes on how your car handles behind another car. The aerodynamic loss that you take following another car, it's a big deal here at Sonoma. So I'm sure Cooper is learning a lot from Brown, and Brown's learning a lot from Cooper, and that's a positive that they can take away from today.
Right. I mean, the carousel there, you could see two distinctly different lines, and both are paying attention to what the other's doing and kind of considering which one they think is best. And you can do that all the way around the track, because no matter how good you are, you still want to continue learning so that you can get better, so that you can be better than the next guy.
Absolutely. And they're in behind Bruce Stavely, who is a couple laps down in that Aston Martin in front of them. And similar power plants under the hoods of those things. So right now, kind of all running nose to tail into turn number 11. This is where we saw that race vision data a couple minutes ago, 35 miles an hour. That's like a city street, and then you're accelerating up well north of 100 on the front straightaway. Then we saw Adam earlier, the race vision in turn number 6, mid-80s, which is really, really fast considering the track falls away from you in that section.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. People realize, that this is really just a game of physics. It's how much of your contact patch of the tire, how much grip will you be able to have, how quickly can you move that forward. If you turn that wheel too hard, you'll start to push out and understeer out into out into the wall, and you can't have, though. It's a little game of physics. And while yes, you're still these cars that are going around 35 miles an hour, I would challenge anybody in their Honda CR-V to take that same turn at 35 miles an hour when it happens.
Yeah, this is the corner we're talking about right here, and it's really like driving off a cliff at the crest of that fifth corner. Kevin, take me through what that's like, even in your TC car, to go over that crest and then have the track essentially fall away from you underneath off to the left.
Well, I mean, you really have to fight the temptation to just be really aggressive there. Instead, you have to have a lot of finesse, and you have to really be kind of in control there, because if you carry just a little bit too much speed, then sort of almost turned the crest of a hill into a jump, and if your tire's not in contact with the ground, well, you can't turn. So you have to make sure you leave just enough tire on the ground that you can start the turn, and then as you land, you can start feeding in more and more steering angle as the track starts to go back uphill, and you get an immense amount of grip at the bottom of that hill. And it's all about kind of timing that and practicing the finesse of it and trying to get it all perfect. And it's a really rewarding thing to do when you get it right.
Looking at my data, I feel like Adam Chug looking at all this data and analyzing it now from P1TS. But last time by, Ryan DL ran a 139.181, which was quicker by 0.4. Or actually, that was his best lap. A 141.255 was his best lap, but that was quicker than Colin Brown last time by over a second and a half. So Brown is really going forward right now, I think, trying to drive away from Cooper at the moment. So lots of battles happening here within the last 7 minutes. There is the number 6 car. That is being driven by Venturini, and not a battle for the race lead. but they're having a pretty good time out there within the last little bit. So, Kevin, now that the race is counting down to the last few minutes, you're getting close to the finish line. You've been in this car now for upwards of 40 minutes. How tired are you? Or is this something you feel when you get out of the race car, or is this something that you feel towards the end of a race where you start to feel fatigued?
Yeah, I mean, I think when the weather's cool like this, you don't really feel it in the car. You're kind of riding all on your adrenaline, and you're really living in the moment. And probably about an hour after the race, when you realize you're not racing anymore, that's when you may sit down and realize that you fell asleep. So it's once that adrenaline wears off, you realize how tired you were.
Across the line for Venturini, the second place Lamborghini Huracan. Out front is Pepper by 14.5 seconds. That was a lap car that they just traded spots with. Brown and Cooper separated by 0.3. Adam, they continue to scrap for that position. And it's been a fun battle to watch those two cars today. And I think we're going to see a rematch tomorrow, and I can't wait to see that.
I can see a lot of this just replaying itself over again tomorrow. The ones now going to go back, they're going to review their data, they're going to review their video, they're going to figure out where they had errors, and they're going to correct them and come back stronger.
Of course, there, as we see the 20 car of Jan Halen leading the Pro-Am category. Ryan DL, if all things continue to go smoothly, he will pick up a podium in the Pro-Am category today, which is remarkable considering that they had made an unscheduled pit stop earlier in the race to fix a little bit of that damage they received in an early collision. So, Kevin, that's a remarkable rebound to come back and land on the podium in a stronger field than we had in 2020, obviously due to the pandemic and returning to racing. So I give the 63 guys a big props for getting that car back out on track and being so competitive.
Really shows how strong the DXTT team is to be able to come in and get that repair done as fast as possible and still give the car a chance to salvage a result. So yeah, that's an amazing result, not only from the drivers, but also the team itself.
There's the 96 car of, I believe that behind the wheel of that now is Robbie Foley, who's down in third in Pro. And not the day that they were looking for. Overall, they're currently running in ninth, 2 laps down. Now, this is one of the drivers that got caught out by that caution flag sequence earlier in the day. Adam, cautions land at bad times for some drivers, great times for others, but it seems like in the middle of that pit cycle, it really messed things up for some of these pro teams, and they're going to want a chance to rematch for themselves in their category tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing's more frustrating than when it's out of your hands, you know? When something happens that kind of throws you off your pace or throws you off your position, it's something out of your hands.
But what is in the hands is the race cars, and 4 minutes of racing left. We're down to the final 3 laps, perhaps, of action here at Sonoma Raceway for the first round of the Fanatec GT World Challenge America powered by AWS Series. Tomorrow, we'll return again with the second race for GT World Challenge America. Also, the GT America race number 2. We'll see that in the morning. Now, if you'd like to follow along, make sure that you head to crowdstrikeracing.com/Sonoma. There is a playlist there that will play basically whatever is live at the racetrack at the time. We will not be covering the TC America races. Kevin, you'll be busy doing that. And Adam, I think we're going to have you just enjoy Sunday. We're going to have some different guests in here tomorrow. But before we get to the end of this race, I want to give both of you guys a huge thank you for being here today. And this has been a pleasure. I wish I could be there again. But soon, next event, hopefully we can reunite and see each other again.
Yeah, definitely. We're definitely looking forward to it. You know, I have to catch a flight and get back to work on Monday. But yeah, definitely looking forward to being in person, and really wanted to thank you for helping us be on this broadcast. It was great.
Always a pleasure, and anytime I can watch racing and be a part of it in any capacity, love to do that. 3 minutes to go. There is your race leader, Jordan Pepper for K-Pax Racing. Kevin, they transitioned from the Bentley Continental GT3 to these Lamborghinis this season, and so far, so good. Round 1, looking like Pepper's going to have this in the bag.
That's pretty amazing because, believe it or not, those two different cars are quite a bit different. So it's amazing that they were able to adjust to cars that are kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum so quickly and really put on a performance like this today.
And it's just the consistency was there for them. So they're doing a remarkable job. They're going to have to defend it tomorrow as well. And going back to GT America, Kevin, I want to touch on that before we get to the end of this race. The multi-class format of that really kind of mixes things up in the field. And George Kurtz won the earlier GT America race, but do you think lightning can strike twice? Do you think he can get that second win tomorrow and sweep the first round of GT America, or do you think the traffic and the challenges will increase as the weekend moves on?
Well, I mean, the traffic is definitely a huge variable, and you have to manage that accordingly. But I think there's a chance for him to sweep this weekend for sure. And it's all comes down to how you manage the traffic, and if you can use some of it to your advantage and minimize any of the disadvantages. And really, I mean, the mixed class racing is not so different than what we do in TC America, so I'm pretty familiar with it. But sometimes it's your best friend, and other times you're just grimacing in your helmet because you wish they would disappear off the track. So it really depends on the situation.
White flag is in the air here for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Out front, Jordan Pepper and a Lamborghini Huracan for the Pro category. For Pro-Am, it's this man right here, Jan Halen for Wright Motorsports. As he works his way down into turn number 4, that Porsche 911 GT3R has been rock solid today. Ryan DL is only 2 seconds back and had been running pretty much an equal pace and might have had a chance to run him down given a little bit more time and a little bit more track position. But DL still going to end up having a pretty solid day regardless and grab himself a podium in the Pro-Am category. There is Conrad Grunwald, who is currently scored in 8th place overall. In the AM category, he's actually leading that category. There's just one of those vehicles out there this week. That's the all-AM driver lineup. But Jordan Pepper for K-Pax Racing, it is going to be a honeymoon in California for this team with a brand new car, brand new manufacturer, and repeating the success that they had with the Bentley Continental GT3s. And the first race of the season for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, will go to K-Pax Racing and Jordan Pepper and team in that Lamborghini Huracan GT3. So well done as they sweep across the start-finish line under the Californian sun. There is Jan Halen. And only a couple seconds up the road from one of our DXDT drivers, he will come on through and sweep the victory for Wright Motorsports in Pro-Am. Ryan DL, though, for CrowdStrike Racing and AWS will come on through and pick up second in the Pro-Am category. And Adam, that was a good day for DL, and I hope he can do the same tomorrow.
Any day that you bring it home is always a good day as well, right? That's always part of my philosophy.
And the other two CrowdStrike AWS cars still going for spots back here. This is for 4th in Pro-Am. And looks like they're going to come across the line. Brown 4th, Cooper in 5th. So the scrap that these cars had a little earlier comes all the way down to the checkers. But Brown and Cooper both will be looking for a little bit more luck tomorrow in the second and final race of the weekend here in Sonoma. So job well done, though. They get the cars across the line, and round 1 is complete, or at least race 1 is. And we get to rack them up, stack them up again tomorrow. And Kevin, I believe we also flipped the driver lineup tomorrow. So how does that going to change things?
Yeah, I mean, tomorrow the pros are going to start in the car, so that's going to change a little bit some of the pit strategy, and that's going to change how aggressive the beginning of the race is. So it'll be not just another version of today. It'll be a completely different story to tune into and watch.
And there's the CrowdStrike Fastest Lap Award for Caldarelli with a 1:38.531. Awful quick in the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo. So CrowdStrike Fastest Lap Award, because every second counts, that we win as one. And while it wasn't a victory today for Fanatec GT World Challenge America for the DXTT guys, there's a chance tomorrow, as well as the GT America race that will happen tomorrow morning. Both of those GT races will be live streamed right here on crowdstrikeracing.com/Sonoma. Be myself hosting, along with a couple other special guests tomorrow. Our lineup for guests, we got Lynn Friedman and Jason Leach from Operation Motorsport. They'll be joining us tomorrow afternoon. I'm really glad to have them with us. And Kevin, I wish you the best in TC tomorrow. And Adam, safe travels home, and hopefully I'll see both of you guys at the next round. But thanks again for joining me today.
Thanks for having us. It's been a complete pleasure to tune in and watch the race.
So again, we'll be joining you tomorrow. And Kevin, I hope that you have a good chance to pick up a victory and get those elbows out, go get a victory, and we'll talk to you a little bit later. But thanks again for everybody. We're going to step away for the evening. We'll be back tomorrow with GT America, followed by Fanatec GT World Challenge America, race number 2 of the weekend. We'll see you there. Thanks for watching.
Every day, bad guys are coming up with new ways to break in. And all defenses are not created equal. You can't focus on your business if you're constantly working to maintain a growing list of security tools that use conventional defenses against unconventional attacks. With CrowdStrike, there's a better way. It starts with an easy-to-deploy, intelligent, lightweight agent that protects any workload, physical, virtual, or mobile, on any cloud, public, private, or hybrid, which connects to the cloud-native Falcon platform. It's born in the cloud, leverages the CrowdStrike threat graph, and via the power of cloud-scale AI and machine learning, it correlates trillions and trillions of events in real time, constantly learning and evolving. So when new threats emerge, Falcon won't be fooled. The Falcon platform has a wide range of modules to meet the unique challenges of modern IT and security teams. It starts with endpoint security modules, cloud security modules, security and IT operations modules, managed services modules, threat intelligence modules, plus the CrowdStrike Store, a diverse and growing marketplace of applications that leverage the CrowdStrike architecture and the single agent, so you can solve new challenges with the same investment. So whatever challenges you face in this new security era, we can help. Because at CrowdStrike, we're built to stop breaches, so you can focus on what matters to your business. CrowdStrike, we stop breaches.